The geopolitical landscape of the Middle East is currently undergoing a significant shift in posture that has captured the attention of global security analysts. Following the conclusion of the recent high-stakes diplomatic discussions in Geneva this week, mediated by Omani and Swiss intermediaries, the focus has moved from the conference table to the high seas of the Persian Gulf. A substantial United States naval presence has coalesced in the region, marking what many experts view as a definitive transition in maritime security. This isn't just a routine hull rotation, it is a calculated demonstration of readiness as the world monitors the security of the Strait of Hormuz, arguably the most vital energy artery on the planet. In response to localized military exercises and heightened surveillance by regional forces, the United States has officially transitioned into a new operational posture, often referred to in defense circles as Phase 2. This designation signifies a move beyond traditional presence toward a coordinated strategic encirclement. With 2 American supercarriers now operating in tandem within the region, the primary objective is the preservation of international shipping lanes and the reinforcement of regional stability. Welcome to Borders Unwritten. Today we're breaking down the mechanics, the technology, and the global stakes of the 2026 Persian standoff. The tactical reality on the water is statistically unprecedented in the post-Cold War era. To understand why this current buildup is different, we have to look at the specific hardware currently stationed in the Gulf of Oman. The U.S. Navy has paired the veteran USS Abraham Lincoln with the technological flagship of the fleet, the USS Gerald R. The Ford is a symbol of 21st century naval doctrine, featuring the most advanced electromagnetic launch systems and integrated defense networks in existence. Its arrival in the theater, following highly successful operations in the Western Hemisphere, signals that the U.S. is deploying its most capable assets to ensure that maritime transit remains uninterrupted. What makes this pairing so effective today is the deliberate synergy between their respective air wings. While the Lincoln provides a core of F-35 Lightning II stealth fighters designed for high-precision operations that can slip past sophisticated radar, the Ford brings specialized electronic warfare capabilities via the E-18G Growler. These aircraft are tasked with monitoring the electromagnetic spectrum, mapping out defense networks, and ensuring that any potential interference with maritime traffic can be neutralized before it begins. By maintaining 2 carriers on a rotating schedule, the U.S. ensures persistent, 24-hour surveillance. There is effectively no gap in the monitoring of the region's airspace and sea lanes, creating a hot flight deck environment where American assets are always loitering within range of potential flashpoints. The geographical center of this tension remains the Strait of Hormuz. At its narrowest point, this passage is only 21 miles wide, with shipping lanes that are even tighter. It is the world's economic jugular, with nearly 20% of the world's total oil supply and a significant portion of its liquefied natural gas transiting through this single gap every day. Any instability here has immediate, cascading global consequences, often referred to by economists as the Hormuz risk premium. We are currently seeing the deployment of hybrid warfare tactics designed specifically for these confined waters. These range from fast attack craft and naval mines to specialized midget submarines and hardened undersea missile tunnels built into the rugged Iranian coastline. These assets are intended to challenge conventional naval superiority through asymmetric pressure, making even routine passage a high-stakes endeavor for commercial tankers. Why has the nuclear clock become the central theme of February 2026? Intelligence assessments indicate that regional enrichment activities are reaching critical thresholds, with reports of uranium being processed to 60% purity, a technical stepping stone toward weapons-grade material. Despite the recent dialogue in Geneva, satellite imagery has revealed continued reconstruction at ballistic missile facilities that were previously damaged. This suggests that despite the diplomatic track, the underlying military infrastructure is still being expanded. This creates a complex environment where diplomacy must be backed by a credible physical deterrent to prevent a unilateral shift in the regional balance of power. Internally, the region is also grappling with significant domestic pressures. Following a period of notable civil unrest earlier this year, marked by reports of a severe crackdown on protesters, the Iranian leadership is navigating a difficult path between maintaining internal control and projecting strength externally. In the world of high-stakes geopolitics, domestic instability often leads to a more assertive foreign policy as a means of national unification. The presence of USS Gerald R is a direct response to this volatility, a signal that the international community is committed to maintaining maritime order regardless of internal political shifts. If diplomatic channels reach an impasse, the strategic framework known as Phase 2 would prioritize precision and electronic suppression over broad-scale conflict. Unlike traditional military doctrines of the past, this framework focuses on neutralizing an opponent's ability to communicate or coordinate. This begins with an electronic blanket provided by the Growler jets, which can effectively blind coastal radar and jam drone control frequencies. This is particularly relevant in 2026, as saturation attacks involving hundreds of low-cost drones have become a primary threat to surface vessels. By severing the link between the operator and the drone, a swarm can be neutralized without firing a single kinetic missile. Furthermore, we are seeing the integration of next-generation technology like the Lockheed Martin Lamprey multi-mission autonomous undersea vehicle. Officially unveiled in early February, the Lamprey represents a fundamental change in maritime monitoring. These autonomous vehicles are designed to mimic biological organisms, allowing them to attach themselves to the hulls of host ships or submarines to hitchhike into sensitive areas. Once in position, they can detach to monitor the seafloor, launch micro-torpedoes, or even deploy surveillance drones from the surface. This creates a persistent, invisible surveillance layer beneath the waves, providing commanders with a Trojan horse of information that makes a surprise closure of the strait almost impossible. In response to this encirclement, regional strategies have shifted toward a saturation model, utilizing land-based ballistic missiles and drones to challenge U.S. installations in neighboring countries like Qatar and Jordan. However, the U.S. Phase 2 posture is specifically designed to force a split in these defensive resources. By presenting multiple threats across the air, surface, and undersea domains simultaneously, the U.S. aims to make a coordinated strike against its carrier groups technically unfeasible. Every asset Iran commits to defending its coastline or targeting a land base is one less asset available to challenge the carriers themselves, diluting the effectiveness of their carrier killer missile batteries. This brings us back to the diplomatic efforts that began on February 17 in Geneva. While these meetings were characterized as a final opportunity for a negotiated settlement, the lack of a definitive breakthrough has created a strategic vacuum. U.S. officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, have indicated that while the door to diplomacy remains open, the tolerance for disruptions to global trade is at an all-time low. President Trump has signaled a pivot toward active deterrence, suggesting that the era of strategic patience has been replaced by a policy of immediate consequence. The economic stakes cannot be overstated. Already, oil prices have shown a 3% volatility spike in response to the naval drills. If the strait were to face a full closure, analysts at Lombard Odier and Saxo Bank suggest we could see Brent crude surge toward $100 or even $150 a barrel. This wouldn't just impact gas prices, it would lead to a global economic heart attack, driving up the cost of manufacturing, shipping, and food production worldwide. For nations in Asia and Europe that are heavily dependent on Middle Eastern energy, the security of this 21-mile gap is a matter of national survival. As we look ahead, the global community remains in a state of watchful waiting. The pieces are positioned on the board, the carriers are at high readiness, and the world's eyes are fixed on the horizon. In an environment this dense with military hardware and political tension, the margin for error is non-existent. A single misunderstanding or an accidental encounter between a fast attack boat and a destroyer could be the spark that transforms this standoff into a wider engagement. The next several days will determine if this concentration of force leads to a new era of regional security through deterrence, or a historic escalation that reshapes the map. What is your assessment of the current buildup? Do you view the arrival of the Gerald R. Ford as a tool for peace? Or is it a sign that the window for a diplomatic resolution is closing? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. This story is still developing, and its outcome will shape global security for years to come. If you found this strategic breakdown informative, please subscribe to Borders Unwritten and hit the notification bell. We will continue to provide expert analysis and updates as the situation in the Gulf evolves.